right. Well, now we're live. Yeah. So just had to pause. We're playing the music. I know you guys don't hear it. It's always confusing. But if you're watching the live stream, then it shows up. So, but you guys are welcome to unmute yourselves now. But thanks everybody for joining. This is episode 42. Episode 42, the magic number. It's the we're going to have the answers to not only your community questions today about all things Microsoft 365, but to life, universe, and everything else.
Christian muted.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Unmute myself. Well, thanks everybody. Let me switch over to this view together mode. There we go. So we can be together in together mode. Thanks everybody for joining. This is, of course, the 42nd episode of Office Hours, and it's the magic number of 42. We'll have the answers to everything here for the next 90 minutes or so. So, how's everybody doing? All right.
Yes.
Glad that 2020 is over.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I was listening to one of my favorite radio programs. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Armstrong and Getty. So I've been listening to them since, I don't know, when they started in the early 90s or mid 90s out of Sacramento. And they're now, all over the place. They're local in Seattle and Salt Lake and Southern California, and they're starting to expand. Anyway, they brought up a really interesting point. They said how many people that just thought that bad things would stop when 2020 ended.
No. Well, I have to say it's kicking off pretty well. Our one of our best friends just had a brand new grandbaby, and it was a high-risk pregnancy, so that was exciting. And my daughter got engaged over.
Well,
the
congratulations.
holidays.
Well, not like you did anything. Not like but
No.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I slaved over all of that.
It's always like, it's like when people share some news like that in Facebook, or when people share bad news and then people like it on Facebook or social media, like, you feel bad. I'm liking it to acknowledge that I'm sorry that happened to you, and yet it's a thumbs up. So. Yeah.
I think that's why they added the little care emoji, that option,
right.
and the response as well too.
Yep.
For that reason.
How's everybody else doing?
Oh, hanging right in there.
Yeah.
Cruising.
All right.
Jump right back into work. Mm-hmm.
Well, I know that Sean's delayed because he did like a system restart and it's doing a bunch of things. He shared via chat a blue screen, and so yeah.
So I don't see any T-shirts this morning.
No, not this morning.
No. Oh, just read it. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, can't see it with the current view. Hang on, let me go back to gallery. There you go.
There we go.
Yep.
Radio Shack color computer.
Nice.
This is one of my favorite. This is one of my favorite ones because it has a cool story. I helped do the Microsoft Teams Roadshow. And so they gave us some of the swag, which was, of course, purple, which is my obsessive color, not just my favorite color. But then at Ignite, in the Harry Potter ride line, out of 20,000 people that are the Ignite party, the gentleman his name is Juliano, was in charge of that roadshow, screams across the line, the queue, "Shortcut Sherry!" He saw me because I was wearing the shirt he gave me, so that was pretty funny.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just commenting on. So I started my new job last month, so 2 weeks ago, and about how I fully expected to suddenly get this deluge of packages of branded wear, and a couple of the people with my company AppPoint, we were just talking. It's like, yeah, we're not doing that as much. Like that, is that era just, is it going to go away? You show up to, like half of my wardrobe now are T-shirts from conferences.
Absolutely.
So if those are not happening,
Right. And you're not draped in red now? You're draped in velvet? You're not draped in red?
Ensconced in velvet, I think is the phrase.
George. That was a famous George quote.
That's right.
I
How's
was
the first 2 weeks with the fire hose going, by the way?
I think with the this week will be the official fire hose because, of course, the holidays the last 2 weeks we had two weekends, 3 day weekends in a row.
So
with the
basically,
holiday.
you start the new gig and you get 2 weeks of vacation right off the bat. Is what you're saying?
Not. I wouldn't say 2 weeks of vacation. It's definitely been lighter. It's been allowing me to go and do a lot of reading. I don't think I'm going to
I
get.
see.
I don't think I'll get the luxury this week and next. It's starting pretty quick, and some other folks are coming on board. There'll be more news out, and so I may even be traveling here later this month. So we're not sure yet. But for everyone watching too, just to clarify too, before we get underway with the questions and things today, this is episode 42. This is our last episode in the current format and the current date. So we're moving and we're changing some things. So I've got a meeting tomorrow. We're going to go through and discuss. So we're actually going to have higher production value. The team's going to take it over, but we're going to structure some things differently, and we're going to move it to Tuesday or Wednesday, and it's not decided yet, but we're going to take a couple weeks break, and we'll be back. But we will be back. So we're
This is where the corporate takes over and we get censored and
of course
we have to dress appropriately and be on time and make sure that we every 15 minutes we put in a plug.
That's right.
Corporate.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, the swear jar is no longer sufficient. The standards are being raised. Yeah. So yeah, it's all right. But I do think it is important before we get started is to share the disclaimer again. I'll put that on screen. Just again, a reminder that we'll do our best to answer your questions. And I guess I should also maybe, it's appropriate to do our best.
Yeah.
Even a caveat around that part of the disclaimer. But that while we are experts on a number of things and we're going to crowdsource a number of the problems, we don't know everything.
We use that word experts very loosely.
That's right. Well, maybe we should have T-shirts made that say experts on it. I would make it more official.
I have one.
Oh.
I have one. It's orange. It says Office 365 expert on it.
There you go.
It should say it depends on your definition of expert.
You're right.
Or or badges or something, or matching bracelets.
We don't need no stinking badges.
Really?
So is there a disclaimer about the inclusion of sarcasm in answers in the disclaimer? No?
No.
Okay.
That's just buyers beware,
Okay.
Well, let's so homework. So we had Eric is going to be late. Eric had an item that he was still looking into. And I did finally hear back from Cashman on the language support for lists. And he confirmed exactly what we had said, that look, the language is dependent on your tenant and the language settings there and SharePoint. And so the list will support the languages that are supported by your SharePoint environment. And so there's no change there, but it was just confirmation. So the kind of a dotted I cross T on that homework item. Eric has an item, and then Neil still has that outstanding item. He had reached out to Vesa and a couple other Microsoft people for an answer on. I don't think that there was anything else. Mike, did you have anything?
Nope, I just have 2 updates to talk about.
Noah, you solved yours in meeting last week, so.
Yep.
So I don't know if you guys saw, I thought we'd start with a question that just popped up from fellow MVP Tracy Vanderskiff out of South Africa. I don't know if you guys know the answer to this. Maybe it's a Yammer question. Noah, maybe you know this. She says, hey, all you beautiful people, please help. Have some users that cannot be mentioned in Yammer, but we can mention them in Teams as well as Outlook. Would appreciate any help or advice in troubleshooting.
Is there a privacy setting? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say my understanding of that is it's pretty much all an address book caching type of scenario, and depends on the Yammer membership. Is Yammer connected to their Azure AD, or is it a self-contained membership where every person is manually entered? Those are questions that I have. I'm assuming that it's connected, so it should have a lookup capability. If it's connected directly to AD or it's going through LDAP, I don't know how Yammer accomplishes that, but I'm assuming since it's a Microsoft product, it's directly connected to Azure AD, so it should work. In other words, I don't have anything beyond that.
That's actually a really good question. I don't know, because I know before they had Office 365, I used my email account that eventually turned into my Office 365, and I had that, personal versus business.
Mm-hmm.
So Noah, do you know if after they integrated Yammer, if there was an existing network that did they integrate, or is it still sitting with its own authentication?
I know that there's something called native mode. And a lot of companies are hesitant to do that because you can't reverse back, and it does that. It collapses the two, the legacy and the AD-driven one. I was also familiar with, I don't know if this is the situation, but there was announcements around guests in Yammer using B2B, Azure B2B, accounts. Does that ring a bell for anybody? Anyways, Yammer supports that, and that took away the ability to do thread level at mentions. So you could bring, previous to now, you could bring an external person in on a single thread or a single group, and now it's just you're a guest in the network, I think, with the Azure B2B guest account. So yes, I would check what mode you're in, native mode, connected, right? There's connected groups. Maybe the group isn't connected and something with native mode, throw that off, but that's pretty deep technical stuff I haven't really been a part of for a few years. But I could ping people I know.
Yeah, there's homework. You just volunteered for homework.
Yeah, that's if you could do that, Noah, I will. Let me jot down.
Well, is it a Twitter thread? What is it?
So she posted it out to Facebook.
Okay, just mention me if you would.
I'll see if I can find it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll look for it here in a second.
Cool.
All right. Was there anything else, Mike? Any other announcements? Anything that came out in Message Center that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, actually there is one. One of interest is that, as everyone knows, they extended the Microsoft Teams, the free subscription for organizations. They extended that. It was January, the end of January. They were going to stop allowing that, but now they've extended that until June. So June of 2021, you'll be allowed on the live and let me just make sure I have this right, that June 30th, 2021 is the cutoff, and it will be event support for up to 20,000 attendees, 50 events hosted simultaneously across a tenant, and the event duration of 16 hours per broadcast.
Right.
So, that has been extended for folks after June 30th. The advanced communication license will be required to host events for more than 10,000 attendees and durations longer than 4 hours. So yeah, this applies to Teams, live events in Teams, Stream, and Yammer. So that was announced. One thing I did want to ask a question to the group is something else that I found out over the holidays that kind of intrigued me, is that a lot of you know I follow a lot of the security around Azure and M365. It's interesting to me that someone posted a script out on GitHub that allows for enumeration of all email addresses that are in M365. And I just wanted to get your take on this, because it's interesting that Microsoft doesn't consider, and this person even comes out and says it, is that Microsoft doesn't consider email enumeration a security issue. I don't know, for many organizations that allow their email gals, to be posted publicly or even to be enumerated. So why do you think Microsoft thinks that's not really a security issue? Any thoughts by anybody? No?
Not right offhand.
I just find it interesting because this thing will go through and it'll enumerate, if you know a domain name, which you can easily find out, domain names that are in M365, and you can find out all the email addresses that are associated with that, and then just spam as you wish.
This could fall into that bucket, just kind of like what we went through a couple weeks back, the productivity score. And, people misunderstanding the use of what it actually meant, what it actually did, who could see it, how those people could see it. But there are some people that are just like, fundamentally, it's wrong to be able to go in to snoop at the individual level and track that kind of data. I can't believe Microsoft is tracking that kind of data. It's like, well, yeah, okay. This might fall into that bucket where it's people asking for a certain capability. Here's what's possible. What does that actually look like? Or maybe it's, Microsoft people doing something without thinking about the full impact.
I find that hard to believe, because the security folks at Microsoft, they know about this stuff before anybody else does, but it just concerns me that, what the thinking is behind it, because I work with a lot of companies that just, they're like, they don't want their email addresses known. They don't even allow their employees.
Well, that's why I'm saying, Mike, maybe it's like a right hand unaware of what the left hand is doing situations.
Yeah, maybe. It could be. I was just trying to get people's take, what they thought about it, because I couldn't believe it when I saw it. And then sure enough, just run this against my own domain, and it shows every email address that I have. So.
Interesting. Hey, Neil.
You're muted, Shari. You're muted.
Hopefully the spam blockers fix that or block any of that.
I just don't know what
nefarious activity.
I don't know how far it could get before the spam blockers actually, rate it, put their score to it, and it actually gets blocked. How much can get through? So,
Yeah, I seriously doubt you get to Satya Nadella's email. Just saying.
Or Brad Anderson. It gets the Andersons, it's all over.
We need to test that out, though, just to be sure.
Good morning, Satya. How you doing? See if he responds.
I have $10 million in this offshore account that I need you to. Yeah.
As I said last week, when the Crown Prince of Wakanda reaches out, you help.
I know.
You send that $5,000 to unlock the $10 million.
Has anybody noticed that? And just to be something that I was talking to a relative about, because I had to go in, and of course during the holidays, it's, hey, the family IT guy goes in and cleans out my computer and makes everything work. Jumping in there and finding out that, getting 20 or 30 of these, you have an offshore account and you have been given rights to this dead person over in Nigeria. For some reason, it just seemed to be a populace of that over the holidays. I don't know if anybody else noticed that.
No, I still have very dirty air ducts.
You do?
Yeah, very dirty air ducts.
Yeah.
Oh, and my car warranty is way expired.
But that's on the phone. I don't get that on email. I get those calls like 4 or 5 times a week.
I get them both. Yeah.
Yeah, I get calls about my car warranty is due for renewal. I don't even own a car.
Like,
it's
joke's
really
on
outdated. I know.
They usually bow out when I tell them it's a 57 Chevy Bel Air.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
You should really, if I was in that place, I would take that opportunity to take that scammer and just go with it. Just play along for an hour or two.
But it's always it's an automated call. That's the problem, right?
Yeah.
They've got the scammers have got wise to the fact that people in the know, like ourselves on this call, we play the game, right? We keep them going, waste their time as well.
I love those videos. I watch those all the time on YouTube. The scammer guys that call up, and then I even love it when they get in. There's a couple guys that tap into the scammers' video cams.
And the camera and their computers.
It's fantastic.
So how do you answer your phone? Do you say hello? Do you say hi?
No, I just click answer and say nothing.
Why is that?
I always answer and say, this is Shari. Can I help you?
That's what.
And everybody immediately hangs up. They're like, it's a business. Like, yes, it is, but no, it's not. But yes, it is.
Yeah.
I just answer it and just be quiet, waiting for you. You called me, so tell me what you want. Is the way I view it.
Yeah.
If you don't recognize that number.
I do the same thing where I say, hey, this is Christian. If there's any kind of pause to show that, hey, it's an automated and they're just ringing through and it's a live person. Okay, then somebody goes to jump on. I hang up before they start talking.
Well, the issue I had to clean up over the holiday was, of course, the ransomware. Which wasn't really ransomware, but they had the nice Windows screen that came up and said you need to contact Windows Tech Support. You've got malware. It's gonna kill you and your children and go after everyone that kind of a deal. But it really didn't affect any of the files. It wouldn't allow you to see. It wouldn't allow you. It renamed Explorer.exe. It couldn't. You couldn't do all that fun stuff. But it really freaks people out, and it wasn't that big of a deal. Of course, you turned out to be the wizard that everyone loves in the family because you fixed their malware problem, but it really wasn't that difficult.
Yeah. My aunt fell for that 3 times. I said, I told you Microsoft will never call you ever. 3 times. What should I do? Go yank the plug out of the wall and take it down to the tech shop and have them clean it for you.
Well, Shari, I would dispute that because I get calls from Microsoft when I download the evals of their software because they only allow, now they've got these separate marketing contractors that are actually, that's all they do is every time you download an eval, you have to put in your information and they call you 6, 7, 8, 10 times saying, oh, can I help you with your Windows Server 2019 data center download? Is there anything we can do for you? No, I just needed the bits because I just have to run a VM for a week. Leave me alone.
Yeah. Well, and that's you. This is my aunt who plays, games and does her banking. So she's not downloading any kind of bits that she should. She would need for a good reason. So I'm with you.
Well, hey, Neil, any update on your homework? Had you heard back from Vesa or anybody else on that question of programmatically changing the hidden in navigation in hub site settings?
So I do have a contact. I'm not going to name the contact on this call, if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
That person's been out of office until today.
Okay.
So I will reach out to her today and try and follow up next week.
Okay, awesome. Well,
or I can email you. I'll email this group.
Yeah, you have to email the group. Yeah, since we are taking a pause, we're not meeting next week. We've got a couple weeks while we reconfigure and relaunch the office hours.
Yes, of course. So, and I'm out after next week. I'm out for 2 weeks anyway.
Yeah,
I'll be on a beach in Mexico.
Oh,
ooh.
Sorry to hear that. Yeah.
I've worked all over Christmas and New Year, so I've earned it.
We'll be there in June. So, yeah. Looking forward to that. I've actually never been to Mexico, but
really?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
I don't know. Because my in-laws are covering the fees for it. They, as a thank you for letting them live with us for 6 months.
That's cool.
And
I would recommend Puerto Vallarta on the Pacific coast, as opposed to the Caribbean coast. Well, Caribbean, yeah.
You're going to Puerto Vallarta?
Yes.
You have to go to El Idon. It's just south. Ms. Maloya is the stop, and then they take you up. It's where Predator was filmed.
We've been there on the zip lines. Yep.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
It's cool. This is our 4th trip to this place. We love it. Absolutely love it down there.
You got to do the blue buses. The little blue buses are a blast. They're cheap and they're fun. Yeah.
Try the rail diesel cars too.
Yeah.
We'll try.
Well, let's.
That was our little experiment. It's been a number of years back, but I made a.
And I'm going to apologize.
Down to San Carlos.
I joined, but I have to drop at 11 Central.
Yeah, no worries. Well, we're going to go through. We've got 12 other questions we're going to try and answer today, and then we're going to do something a little different if we've got time at the end. All right, well, let's just kick things off with question 1. So we have 2 questions that were left over from last week. The number 1 from Pavel was, should guest users be able to sync files of teams in his OneDrive to get access to files via File Explorer? So the guest user, should they be able to sync files from teams?
I think it depends on your external access settings, right? I don't know.
Well, if you're a guest, I mean, my assumption would be that no, that you're not going to be able to do that because the files belong to the tenant that you're a guest member of. So just because you have access in there and based on the permissions that are set, doesn't mean that you have local storage of or saving files within that team.
Well, if there's any kind of a,
Go ahead, Al.
let's just come your tenant, Christian, you have like the chat, which still doesn't work, but nevertheless,
for everybody except
chat,
you, Hal. That's right. But so. I know.
But nevertheless, if you go to the chat and look, you've got a chat tab. You've also got a files tab. Sean put a file into that files tab. I, as a guest, cannot download it or deal with it because I am not a member of his tenant. So that, I think, is a pretty close representation of the question.
I just posted something in the chat. It's that the actual link isn't relevant, but let me give you the one that.
Wish I could see it.
This is the root of that link. It's in a support dot. It's a tech community link. Guest user cannot sync files. Sorry, OneDrive can't add your whatever. But that link I gave is about kind of file names and things, invalid characters and stuff. But the second one.
Right.
So I just did it. I'm a guest in a customer network or customer teams environment and hit sync and it came right through. The entry in File Explorer is the customer name and then the team name and the channel name. So yep, I can sync just fine.
So maybe it's like Shari said. Maybe it's about the
policy
driven. Policy based. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Yeah. So that's that's something that you go probably spend 2 minutes and look within the Teams admin console to find that policy and change it. All right.
Christian.
Yeah.
Just to avoid confusion, I thought Tracy's was question 1 in the chat. You'll see, we found a solution to the Yammer users that can't be mentioned.
Where did you post it? Oh, for question 1. Okay.
Essentially, you go deactivate the people that you can't add mention, and then when they log in next time, it indexes them and they show up in the.
So it's a way to turn it off then on again, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I like it.
Sticking with tradition.
Reboot.
Yeah, so that was the question for everybody about someone that they can't be mentioned within Yammer for some reason, and so it's basically you just need to refresh their connection, add them, re-add them, and then it should work. So just something with, I mean, there's weird things that happen when, depending on how users are added or if they're migrated over to new service like Yammer is turned on, and then it's not quite there. It's never as you guys have heard me say this again and again about a number of different things. Plug and play is not a real thing in any technology. You always have to go back and look. There'll always be some permissions exception where somebody is left out, and so you need to go back through with any. I mean, it's just like any migration, any movement between applications, any integration between two systems. The majority may come across, but then you've got to go look at the exceptions and understand. And there could be a number of one-offs and different reasons for why they didn't move across cleanly. So, anyway,
and they do when you look at the link, it says if they're not using Azure Active Directory, it will ask them to verify their email address. That's the legacy stuff. If they are using Azure, you just deactivate and they come right back. So
and for anybody that's watching on the live streams, we've got multiple people that are watching on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter, Periscope. Periscope, by the way, is going away. I can't remember if we talked about that. So I don't know what's happening with Twitter-based video. They're just pushing people over to Instagram now or something. But yeah.
Who bought Periscope?
No, nobody. Twitter owns it. They're just shutting it down.
Oh.
I think because they're pushing video people over to Instagram.
But that's a Facebook-owned product.
Or what do they have? What's their version of it? I don't know who owns who anymore. Anyway, Periscope is shutting down. That's my understanding. So it's going away. But I was going to say, for the people watching the live streams, so all of the links that we mention, I'm going to try and add the links into chats in multiple locations, and we're out on LinkedIn as well. But if you go out to buckleyplanet.com, later today I'll have the recording of this video, which of course is up on my Collab Talk channel on YouTube. But I'll have a blog post later today with every question, with every relevant link that we discuss within that blog post. And somebody is sharing a bunch of text.
I'm doing pre-work.
You're moving up to the next one.
I'm anticipating.
Okay. Well, let's jump to question number 2 on the list. So that Tracy's question was question A, and then there was 1, and now we're on question 2. So Seng asked the question, "Hi team, I have a question related to Windows 10 feature update 20H2. All of my client currently get feature 2004. However, when we check to update in Windows settings, we receive status that Windows is up to date with current version only 2004. Why does it not obtain new feature update automatically?"
Likely because it's not ready for your machine yet.
Well,
they stage these. And,
it could be. It could also be affected by what channel they belong to, right? So if you're talking about 20H2, that was actually given out to the beta channel, not the releases channel. So if everyone else is on release, then they're not going to get that. So I'd find out what channels they belong to from a release standpoint. And that can be done if they're managing those Windows 10 devices from Intune. That can be done from the Intune console. If they're doing it, if they're not managing, and then they have to go to each machine and find out what the settings are for the Windows Insider updates.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Question number 3 from Brian. Hello, everyone. Is there a way to recall an email from a specific email address in the back end of Office 365 Admin Center without letting employees know?
No. It's one of the misconceptions that I just, again, dealt with recently, is that, I sent the email. This person received it, but I want to recall it before they read it. Well, no, once it's left your system, it's email. And, if they click on it and open it, you can't pull it back. It doesn't. It no longer belongs to you, if you will. So
the other scenario to add to that, Mike, is it's not just about recalling it. Even if they haven't read it, if there's a Outlook or whatever client rule that moves it to another folder,
right,
done, it's gone.
Yeah.
Well, and sometimes I've seen it's like this message was recalled, which just inspires more curiosity.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I
one of
usually
my
wind up with both. So and so would like to recall this message. I wind up getting the message too. It all depends on whether you read it first or whether you read the recall request first. And sometimes if you read the recall request first and you have not read the message and you're using Outlook, then it will go away and you'll get Shari, then you get that. But
there is an entry on the roadmap about recalling from Exchange, though, that's was entered in December last year, or like 2019 last year, and it says it's 2021. So we'll see what happens.
Maybe.
Is an integration of Outlook technology and that little device from Men in Black that wipes your memory. It's a combo of those two things.
But remember, when you create a rule in Outlook, that actually applies to the Exchange server. Right? It's part of your mailbox. Right. Also consider. So there are a couple of things. I don't know the specific reason the person has asked this question. There's a couple of things I do. If I'm writing an email, I automatically have Outlook set to a 5-minute delay on send. So if I think, damn it, I can go and kill it before it goes. Also, what I do is if I'm writing an email that I consider specifically important, I put a broken email address in the CC line. So it will at least, if I accidentally click send, it'll pop up and say, who's this person? And I think, oh, all right, take a step back, and then go fix it. So there's a couple of tricks. I mean, they're kind of workarounds and
doesn't solve the primary problem, but
doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't answer the question.
Right.
But my point is, why are they asking the question?
Right.
Well,
I accidentally sent an email to Satya.
Yeah. But again, I mean, you're talking about SNTP, right? I mean, it's email. It's not. I mean, you have Exchange version of it. You have all these. If somebody's using SendMail, Exchange isn't going to tell SendMail recipient that, hey, I want to pull back that message. Nope. There's no recall mechanism inside of SNTP protocol by default. Yeah. So.
One of my favorite examples of the fail of the recall message, it's an option, previous company where somebody sent thinking they were sending to all management or all leadership. It started with all, and they sent to all company, which is a spreadsheet with everyone's salaries.
Oh.
Yeah. I've seen that.
I've seen that one.
Yeah.
I've gotten a phone call where like, hey, Mike, can you find out, how we can recall this message? Because I just sent all the executive payroll information to everyone in the company.
The HR hair just went up on my neck. Big time.
That's called what we call an RGE, which is a resume generating event.
Yeah. It's just funny that we've all had that experience in different companies. So just say something to our finance accounting teams about email usage, but I don't know. Well, let's jump to question number 4. Hassan asks, can we say that Microsoft Teams is a learning management system or an educational platform?
Oh, let's debate this. No.
Well, it's not an LMS. I mean, it's definitely not an LMS.
It's not even close to an LMS. It's not even close to an LMS.
But see, the second phrase is like there is no such thing as an educational platform. Sending out a OneDrive link, and if it's a resource, you could claim it's an educational platform that you. You
know who calls their product an educational platform? Google Classroom.
Oh.
And that is a huge, huge misconception. It is not.
You can present your LMS through a third-party connector into Teams, but it doesn't do what an LMS does, which is track their objectives and their
Progress
progress and
right.
and what they're assigned and all. That's what and Teams doesn't do any of that.
Right.
I mean, I guess you could build a platform on Team, and present it in Teams, but yeah.
Well, the Teams would just be the mechanism for communication, collaboration within the LMS.
Yeah.
And that's all it can provide, really.
Yeah, I know. Inside Microsoft, we have a platform which is it's learning at Microsoft, right? But it's custom built. It's entirely custom built, and yes, it tracks your progress. I can log into it, and it will tell me all of my required learning exercises. It will tell me my optional learning exercises, and it will tell me what I've done. I mean, there's no kind of score. It's not like, oh, you scored 70 out of 100.
No, but if it tells you,
built into it.
But a lot of companies, especially if you have a certain number of credits that you're allowed, it tells how many you have available still and unused. And
well, think about ESI, right? The Microsoft skill, the way we do skilling initiative, enterprise skilling initiative at Microsoft. When there's options there where customers can, based on their qualification, they gain a certain number of credits, such as you can take X number of courses and you can take X number of accreditations and you get so many examinations you can take for free.
You're talking about Microsoft Learn.
We have a way to track that.
Yeah.
So those are the platforms that I consider to be close. But again, at the same time, it's like, how granular do you want to get with a learning platform?
But what's the difference then? What is an educational platform? What's Google's definition of themselves? Yeah. Why is that different?
Because they provide, in my understanding, because I went through this with the school district when we were trying to figure out what they were going to use, is because they provide not only the student end of it, but also the teacher end of it. So they have the actual grading, the ability to do grading, the ability to do, classroom attendance, to be able to do, all that kind of stuff. So they consider themselves an educational platform, which I don't agree with, from the sense of all they're basically doing is they created a couple little apps that have databases on the back end and they do file sharing.
Well,
that's it.
But I mean, so you have, EDU licenses. And for Teams and everything else in Microsoft ecosystem. And I know there's a number of vendors that have solutions that are within that. Is Microsoft make any claims of being an educational platform, of Teams being an educational platform? Because a lot of those, what you just described, there's a lot of schools, a lot of teachers trying to use Teams in that way. I don't know. I mean, I realize it's more subjective. Yeah, Noah.
During the pandemic in June, they announced a learning app coming to Teams, and I don't know where that sits, but they're gonna you essentially aggregate a whole bunch of sources, LinkedIn Learning being one of them, right? And you go and assign this to.
Are you taking a homework item, Noah, to go and investigate that?
I've already got a link for you. I mean, it's well known that I think they're going after this vertical with a specific app in Teams.
Yeah,
it's called the Learning app in Teams, and so you pick your sources, right, and it'll track your prior. That's my understanding is they will function very closely to an LMS for the enterprise side, for the education side, whatever you want to. However you want to dice it, you will have a learning app in Teams at some point.
And Neil, you shared the Canvas link as well, and that's one that you've heard about.
Yeah, I shared that one. I know that's one that some folks close to me use in the Frisco colleges and things. I think that will do. You can log in, you can do take a test online, get your scores online. You can be proctored online through video, so it seems to work well. Can be a little clunky if the internet's down. Other than that, it works great.
Yeah, it's there was a I don't have it up, but just there was something that was really interesting. It was talking about the explosion of internet of the connectivity across the U.S. and even in rural areas and that entire effort to chasing bandwidth, getting away from the dial-up and looking at the capabilities and how it's becoming, especially with the pandemic, but even after this, that we're going to see, even the most rural areas of North Dakota, Alaska, out in the far reaches, have broadband access and have multiple options for broadband access. So some pretty amazing stuff from even a decade ago, thinking about that. And if anybody ever worked, speaking of, I know we don't answer telephony questions, but having spent a decade in the telephony world, working for the phone company and in IT roles, but learning about, how much of, your phone bill that you're paying through the traditional phone company, through the landline services, was paying for that rural service, and how one of the complaints early on was that a lot of these remote areas were getting infrastructure built out at a higher speed than a lot of denser areas, suburban areas, just because of the funds that were set aside specifically for those rural communities and expand that out. I remember hearing about this and about that growth and about how even back in the late 90s, this idea of getting internet access and then broadband access out to these rural communities just seemed like this gargantuan task, and we're pretty close to having delivered on all of that here in the U.S. All right, question number 5. Gajanan says, we have the latest Outlook app for Android and iOS. The problem is that it only shows notifications for the emails that are put into the inbox. If there's a message rule and the message goes into some other subfolders, then we will not get any notification. How do I resolve that issue?
Shari's got the answer.
Yeah. So I posted it in the chat. There is add it to the Teams rule. So when you create a rule, it kind of takes basic information about that message. If you create a quick rule, say that 3 times fast, and but you can actually use the advanced options, and there's 3 different settings in there.
It's important at the bottom there. Whenever messages arrive from Christian Buckley, be notified. So must have that notification.
Must have that notification. Play a sound, display a specific message in the new item window, and display a desktop alert. All 3.
I want everyone to have my phone ring of choice for everyone is the Dwight Schrute, the idiot. I want that when I'm calling anyone. I want that to be the message. Yeah.
Shari, does that work in the app as well as the desktop client?
I'm gonna have to test that. I think the same options are available on the web, but I'll double check before we wrap it up here. But my son, I don't know why, but I called my son, and he has the Darth Vader theme when I call him. I'm like, what's that about? In a way, I'm a little flattered. On the other side, I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's. I mean, look, there's been an argument for a long time of moving away from folders and using, metadata and other, filtered views. So filtered views versus, it's not a folder. It's not a, it's still a flattened view. It's just a view into your inbox, into that data. And then you wouldn't have that problem. It would all still show up in that, primary inbox on the mobile app.
Yeah, those are search folders too. And then I'm all about flagging and categorizing my emails so that I can look at them a certain way, and I use quick steps to apply those. So yeah, I have a whole thing on it on my blog if you're interested. Shari's tag and flag system.
You should. What's the link to that article?
Okay,
I'll put it in the blog post.
Okay.
Post it out to the chat, and I'll add that in there.
Awesome.
So I guess that's an outstanding question then, is whether adding those will for the Teams notifications, whether that alters the experience from the mobile app, because that's their primary question.
Yeah, I know rules definitely apply in terms of moving things. I'm not sure about the alerts.
Yeah, that would almost have to be something in the mobile app itself as to how it does alerts, because you're getting the alerts on the desktop client. You're just not getting them in the mobile app. The rules and everything else that you've got set up would apply to both. So it sounds to me like the mobile app just isn't capable of doing that quite yet.
Yeah, so that's kind of my point. So Gajanan, we were talking more about preventative measures. I don't know if there's a specific answer to that issue. I think it's just a limitation of, as Hal says, to the app.
But if it turns out to be a limitation to the app, then go to user voice.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, question number 6. Nikki asks, is there a setting to use to ensure I always get the pick up where you left tag? It seems inconsistent when I open the same document later on either my Surface and the desktop PC.
The question's specific to whether there's a setting.
Yeah, is there a setting to use to ensure that I always get the pick up where you left tag?
I don't think there's a setting.
Not that I've seen.
I think it's inconsistent. Because I'll tell you, so I've seen the same thing where it's inconsistent across applications. The place where it annoys me the most is in navigation, where I will be working in a certain place in a certain folder or subfolder of where content is around a project, and I'll go up to open something, an additional document to review or to save location, and it will dump me in the default view somewhere and not recognize, hey, this is where Christian's 3 folders deep within this structure where this project content is, and save it all there. I have to re-navigate through to save, re-navigate through to find something and open it. Microsoft has improved some of that. I know I'm going sideways, which is not the question, but they've improved that with the ability to pin items, pin locations within, when you're opening up an application. But specifically about this, the pick up where you left tag.
I mean, we do see a lot of things that talk about, sync settings across devices, but I'm not sure it applies specifically to this scenario unless they're opening like Word in the browser. Maybe it's something that would need testing, I think. But he says my question here is more about the word inconsistent. When does it work and when does it not? What's the scenario? Are they opening in the Word client? Are they opening in the Word browser in the Office web browser version?
Yeah,
I think those kind of things need to be defined a little bit more.
Yeah, what versions of things are you using? That's always the basic question. It's one of those where if we had the luxury of asking follow-up questions again and clarifying, but if you go into support, those are the basic questions that they're going to ask. If it's browser version, what browser are you using? What version of the browser? What version of the applications? Is it an older version?
Or even the type of, is it the desktop client versus the browser? Because if you think about it, it's Word, right? If you're opening a file in from SharePoint or even in Teams, right? In files and Teams, give me a specific example.
Yep.
Well, the other thing to consider is when you're working on it in the browser and then you open it in Word, it's still open in 2 places. So you basically didn't leave off anywhere because they're still active. You would have had to close the browser version and then open it in the desktop version. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, it's still thinking you're working on it in the other place. You didn't technically leave off anywhere. So I don't know if that makes a difference.
Riz, casually late.
It's like I don't think Riz cares.
No, he just shows up whenever he wants to.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks for waiting. Please get started. I'm ready.
Right. Well, I guess we have a non-answer to that one. Thanks for nothing, Eric. So we'll move on to question number 7.
I said it was 14.
Unless do you know anything, Eric, about the pick up where you left off tag? You know, when you were in Word and you would close it and come back in, or wherever you were working, and it just picks up from that spot. No. Okay.
Is there a question there, or is it just like?
I'm
yes,
asking.
I know about it.
Yes. No, we're just wondering if there's that. So the question was whether there's a setting to use to ensure that that always works, and we couldn't find anything. Weren't aware of anything. So, you know what? That is one I'm going to take as homework.
Whoa.
I'll go take a look, see what I can find.
I hope this person feels privileged because Christian just doesn't take homework for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I take homework like every other week. All right, question number 7. Thomas says, someone already set up teams for your organization. Who knows this problem or its cause and solution? The user would like to use the free version of Teams. He doesn't know which of his colleagues or employees might have already set up Teams. His company doesn't have a Microsoft 365 subscription, and he only wants to occasionally use the free version, mostly when he gets an invite.
So I got to call laughter on this one. I'm sorry. He answered his own question with the error message.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody already set up Teams. That's why you're getting the message. I'm sorry, but it's quite obvious. I mean, I understand that maybe no one inside of your organization has set it up, but I could go set up a team called Microsoft.com if I wanted to. Anyone can set up a company account that they want to, even if they don't own the company, as long as they have some form of email address that they can get to. So, yeah.
Microsoft lawyers love when you do that, by the way. You should go do that immediately.
Yeah.
Make sure you have lots of millions of dollars. But I just put a link in the chat window. It is a defined known issue. There's 3 possible causes and 3 possible resolutions.
I've got to just shoot the link out.
I just found the exact same link, so
Yep.
What are the 3 causes?
Cause 1, someone's already
use
set
your
up Teams.
words. Okay, yes. Somebody's already using Teams. Yeah.
Number 2, your email address is tied to both a work and personal account. So if you connect your accounts together, right, which is possible. And number 3, you're trying to sign up for your work account by using a free tenant, which sounds like what he's trying to do.
So he just needs to create another
Use a personal email address,
account. Yeah.
Not your create a new Hotmail account or Outlook.com account and create your free version using that.
Yeah.
Now the only thing that worries me is if he's saying he's well, let me find the email again. He says he tries to do this each time somebody. Where's it gone? Only use the free version mostly when he gets an invite. So don't try and if he gets an invite, don't try and set up Teams, but try and just join.
Just join it.
Yeah.
Or use the web version, so they don't have to worry about the desktop version.
All right. Question number 8. Tawari. Oh, look at that.
Sean's here.
Look who shows up.
There
Nice
he
of you to
is.
join us, Sean.
Now the party can start.
Yes.
Eric
Happy New Year,
joined.
Sean.
Sean, Eric joined like 90 seconds ago. Literally 90 seconds ago.
I was chomping at the bit as soon as I saw the add him into the meeting thing. I'm like, I've got to get this in first.
Of course.
Hey, and Christian, I've also prioritized this call over my work call, so
Nice.
I'm still here.
Excellent. Well,
I'll be here till the end.
As you should do that. It's episode 42. Of course you've got to prioritize it. Come on. So we'll get into, if we have time at the end, so questions about the origins of the universe and who God really is, all that kind of stuff. We're going to handle it at the end if there's time.
So long, and
about
thanks
string
for all
theory.
the fish.
That's right.
And
We
Sean,
can
I
make
got
time
this
this
just
week.
for you.
We can make time.
Oh, you rock, Hal. That's vintage.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Sean, you the new device. Did it come with all the games? That was the big question that was floating out there. The Atari.
We'll have to plug it in.
Oh.
I've
I'll be right back,
I've
folks.
got a Synology NAS that I'm trying to review and get going for folks, and then I've got that Atari along with some other things. But yes, so I'll post a link. The Atari actually looks like it's a pretty interesting little device. I don't know that it'll end up going anywhere, but I do have the certificate that says I have one of the collector's edition first 6,000 models. So
Well,
it may
so
be the only 6,000 miles.
maybe explain what it is that we're talking about for folks. I know there's a few people that are via Facebook that are kind of waiting for you to answer some basic questions.
Yeah. So years ago, literally years ago at this point, one of the Indiegogo efforts I backed was this Atari VCS video computer system or console system. In essence, what they were doing was appealing to folks who grew up with and loved the Atari 2600, which many of us are amongst those. And what they were promising wasn't necessarily just another 8-bit reboot, because I mean, I've got one of those Atari joysticks that has like 50 games built into it. I mean, they can do everything much smaller scale now, but this is actual redesigned console with modern technology. It's got Ryzen chips in it. It's got an Ethernet connection, cloud, Bluetooth, all of that stuff. It looks like a VCS, mostly newer, of course, but the device came with it was the device, the joystick, and the gamepad controller in a box, and that certificate, and that's about it. So I'm like, I got this thing in. I know it does something. People are asking me if it has games on it. According to the link I just posted in the site, yes, it has games. It actually has the ability to boot into a PC mode. You can install Linux and Atari, Windows on it and things like that. You guys
So
still there?
You think
Yeah.
it's just an emulator then?
Okay, yeah, because my Teams froze. No, I don't think it's just an emulator, Mike. It looks like the screenshots they've got, and I know that marketing folks can do whatever they want with screenshots, but it looks like they've kind of rolled a few things forward. I don't know. I will get into it this week because I did uncrate and unbox everything, and I just need to clear a little bit of room downstairs because we got an Xbox and all this other stuff. So
I gotta ask the gaming folks that are on this call, has anyone looked at the new KFC console?
KFC console?
You guys don't know about this?
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and Cooler Master got together and put together a gaming console.
Oh no.
They did this in June, and they just launched it 2 weeks ago. And it actually has a heater in it, air fryer, that'll keep your chicken nuggets or whatever cold warm, and it has a full gaming console built into it.
Okay.
You got all the stats online. I mean, it's got everything from 4K resolution, 240 hertz output. It has a patented chicken chamber that can store and warm chicken.
All I
Where
can
else are you
say
gonna
is
hear the
somebody
term
needs
chicken
a
chamber?
life. Like,
It's got
Somebody-
an i9 in it, for Pete's sake.
Well, it's like I just saw Seb Matthews just talked about his new Land Rover or whatever, and he bought a cappuccino machine for his Land Rover because the only thing I like more than drinking hot cappuccino while driving a giant SUV is listening to my vinyl collection while driving and listening to my drinking cappuccino while driving in my SUV.
Wow.
So the idea behind that, Mr. Buckley, as a Range Rover owner, is you
stop somewhere
and Range Rovers. Yes, the back tailgate flips down and the top flips up.
I know.
You can sit on it, and you can enjoy the landscape and life with a nice cappuccino.
Thank you, Eric, for sucking the funny out of that. But thank you for that detail.
And I cannot confirm or deny that I have one in mind. Okay.
No, that's cool. No, I know that there were some vehicles that were selling that had like barbecue attachments, so that it had a place for like have your propane tank and have like the true fold down the back, have a whole attachment there for a barbecue unit and stuff. I have a friend who back in 2000, remember sitting in this tech company, we're working in downtown San Francisco, and he talked about always wanting to get into barbecuing more. And I'm like, what does that mean? So start barbecuing more. What is it? No, he started taking family vacations, like buying multiple different specialty barbecues, charcoal versus gas versus pellet, bunch of different things. And then doing family vacations around going to giant barbecue expo events around the U.S. and huge tailgate parties when people would do recipe challenges and cooking contests and that kind of stuff. And that's what they did, is they spent the time in giant parking lots barbecuing and meeting other barbecue enthusiasts around the U.S. And I thought my friend was going crazy. So I get it, having those devices when you stop and you go and do that stuff. My son and his wife, they're big on they've got a, what is it? They've got a similar, a 4Runner. So they've got like the giant pop-up tent on the roof of their car, and they go everywhere with their dog and go camping with that. It's a pretty cool setup. So he's really interested in the devices that are 4Runner design specific products to add on to their vehicle. So yeah, I get that.
I don't know. I'm a little more comfortable driving around with an espresso machine than I am a propane tank in my car.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
It's a personal choice.
I get it. All right, let's see. Question number 8. Tawari says, I have a question. Archiving is also almost full, but the mailbox is size 25 gigabytes out of 50 gigabytes. If archive is reached to 50 gigabytes, will the mailbox work?
You will not be able to.
Nope.
Well, you'd be able to. I think they limit it, don't they? Is it like the on-premises exchange where you can not receive email, but you can send email, or is it one or the other? Something like that? Or is it just shut down altogether?
Yeah, what happens, and maybe, and Sharon, welcome, and maybe what happens when your mailbox is full? Obviously, the archive fails when it's full, and it can also degrade the service. So that's happened sometimes where I've been in organizations where they didn't give us that much space, and where we felt like we were constantly reaching out to IT to ask for more room in the mailbox. And so it starts to degrade the service. I don't know that it bounces emails received, but it can, you start to get like intermittent failures. Stuff doesn't send. It takes longer to open. It just like it's and is anything, I don't know what happens officially. This is just experiences, user behavior I've witnessed myself.
Yeah, I haven't dealt with that in a long time. I do remember that happening in the old days of people having really tiny quotas, and I want to say that we got some sort of a message that said that you had reached your quota and you needed to reach out to IT, but I do remember there being odds and ends of little things that didn't work, like you mentioned.
Yeah, you can't send. Sending is terminated until you reduce the size.
Yeah. I think 10 years in the future, the conversation will be about like how we ever, lived without 12 to 15 petabytes for email storage. I don't understand. Like your holograms are at a crawl,
We always like to laugh. I remember when the 1 gig SCSI came out, and we were just like, what would you ever do with all that space? Like, who even has enough stuff to fill that up?
One of my first big projects at Pacific Bell was moving a massive marketing database and a system over to new hardware, and it was an 800 gig database and was 1.2 or 1.4 terabytes after the move. With some of the upgrades, we integrated a bunch of GIS information into it, and that was just this massive effort. Now we always talk about this, I have multiple terabytes of just a music external drive plugged into my PC.
Yep, me too.
Yep.
So, all right. Question number 9, Marco.
Polo.
Thank you. Hi. Any recommendation? Recommendation for project management add-on or app for Microsoft Teams?
I've had this conversation so many times in the last 6 or 8 months.
We're sorry.
Yeah. It's a struggle. I know this is primarily Microsoft, but I'm going to tell you that my opinion is for Teams, for project management, I think the best thing right now is Jira Cloud. It's one of the best ones. It's easy to get. It's free for a small team. It's really cheap for larger teams. It integrates very nicely with Teams. If you want to go, Microsoft, I think DevOps right now is probably one of the best for project management.
It's growing very quickly.
Project itself is headed down a better road. Planner's great for task management. Planner's great for task management in Teams. But if you want full-baked project management in Teams, I think Jira Cloud's probably one of the best.
This testimonial sponsored by Confluence.
And it's one of the more popular ones that's out there. And it really, I think that the only way to answer this question is like any of the best questions that are asked is, it depends what you're trying to accomplish. So, I've worked with a number of organizations that were Jira customers. If you're, the ticketing system is fantastic for that. I'm not a DevOps user.
DevOps has gotten quite nice, actually. I've been playing around with some of the new features, and it's come a long, long ways. And I'm almost to the point that I would start recommending it. It competes fairly nicely with Jira in terms of managing different types of things and process management, and it's got different templates you can do. I've been really happy with it so far for what I've seen.
Visual Source say forever.
Yeah, so just to add that to Sharon's comment, I have a lot of customers that are doing kind of Azure migrations. That's the space I work in right now, and a lot of them are using Jira Cloud or Jira, and they're sticking with it until DevOps offers a completely, at least close to 100% level of compatible features. Yeah. But as also to that point, DevOps, to put my Microsoft hat on, is closing the gap fairly quickly.
So I'm going to put in a shameless plug. I did a course on LinkedIn Learning about managing projects using SharePoint. So if they're wanting to stay within the Microsoft ecosystem, if they want to, see some of the options. And one of the things that I like about it is that your SharePoint lists can actually be open in Microsoft Project. So the project manager can work in Project. The lists can be managed and shared with the people that are working on the tasks and marking them. And even if they have it set up correctly and it's not in a modern view, you can sync that task list to your Outlook, and people can manage their tasks from Outlook. So I'll put that link in the chat.
Perfect.
why I did that class, because it's like, how we want to manage tasks and we don't want everybody in our project file.
You know what? One thing, a project that I was looking forward to kicking off in December was a series with a fellow MVP who specializes in project server formerly and now DevOps and that side of it. We were going to do a deep dive into each of the different Microsoft technologies, and so now I've just got to figure out with the new gig where when I'll be able to do something like that. But it's and I've shared before, I mean, my entry into knowledge management was through project management tools and technology. So that's kind of how I found my way in doing a SharePoint, a SharePoint deployment alongside Project Server back in 2004, 2005. And so I was a project and portfolio management consultant. Not a fan of Project Server at all for years, and even after, but a year after a failed deployment of Project Server to build it out to get it to move, and I actually went and worked with. I hired the same team that had deployed Project Server for a couple massive Microsoft customers, including Coca-Cola. Came out to this company I was working for. It was $1 billion company. And just they wanted the analytics side, the decision support, like the side, why you put in all the automation around project management. You want the data to be able to learn from. It's not just about pushing tasks to individuals, but be able to look at the patterns of your projects over time and improve on the speed and performance of projects and certain tasks. And back in 2005, it failed miserably, but I caught the SharePoint bug and got involved after that. But even after joining Microsoft in 2006, like the first internal product fair that used to be on the soccer fields there out on the main campus, I made a beeline over for the Project Server team and got to be friends with Christoph and a few others that were part of that team. I mean, I was on top of all the updates there for 3-4 years and not happy.
And you said Christoph Feisinger, such a traitor to the SharePoint team. Love the guy to death.
I know.
A good friend of mine, but
I know. We've had that conversation as well. Like, it's like you can understand why people were kind of angry with you to jump from Project Server over to Yammer and then over to groups and the messaging that he shared. And he's like, yeah, he's aware. Yeah. What's the latest link?
I also put a link in for a free trial of LinkedIn Learning. So
cool.
People want that, if you want to include
bonus. Yeah,
Nice.
and the link that I popped in there is what is the project for the web. So there's a big roadmap around the project. Speaking of project, and one of the reasons that I didn't necessarily jump to project immediately is because there's a lot of changes coming around Microsoft Project. And so right now it's kind of on its way on the other, I think it's just now kind of cresting the mountain and coming down the other side. And so I just put that link in, so if anybody's interested in kind of seeing where project is headed, you can kind of click through there and read some of it and see some of the new stuff that's coming, because ultimately it'll kind of have a very similar look and feel to Planner and all the modern experience stuff as it moves forward.
Yep. Well, then that's the big question. I think that's why I was interested in doing that series and looking at those, because the idea is to integrate them so that you can be a member of DevOps, Azure DevOps. You can have a project online, project going on, and all of those tasks will roll either or either and to Planner where it's relevant, and be able to link Planner to these two other tools, but more importantly to To-Do, so that you have that personal view. So if people assign tasks to you in Planner, Project Online, or DevOps, it should all roll to that mobile app and to that To-Do app view. So you'll be able to go and then from the desktop app or jump into on the mobile app into the detailed plans wherever they exist. And that's going to be an exciting future when you have that. So I don't have to feel like to have the more robust capabilities, if my preference is project versus DevOps, I have the option to use either one, or I can just do for my Scrum, I just want to do a planner and let's just do this for the next 6 to 12 weeks and use this and have people integrated. And as an end user, just to be able to go and look at what do I have that's due today across the 20 projects that I am a member of. So I look forward to that future.
Yeah, I think that's exciting to see the differences of what they can do and how they all work together.
Yep, agreed. All right, let's see. Question number 10. Michael asks, hi all, when installing Microsoft Teams on my private device, it asks me, and then there's, some German. No, it asks me, allow management of my device by my organization, is what it translates. Was wondering what will happen if I accept this. What influence will my organization then have on my computer?
This is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Al. It's basically obviously the company has an MDM of some kind, device management service. It's like me when I attach my phone to the Microsoft tenant, I'm then subject to the policies that are applied.
Yep.
And there's nothing you can do about it once it happens. The company controls that device. There's elements of obviously you still have a lot of personal control, and the applications and restrictions are based around the company data generally, not personal data.
Yeah.
But it's hard to know exactly what controls are in place without understanding the policies that have been applied.
So if they do, I guess the big question is, they do a remote wipe on that device. So it removes any of the applications that were installed as part of that profile, but it doesn't reset your phone and wipe your phone.
No, it just removes everything that's company data. So, like for example, if I do a remote wipe on my iPhone, at Microsoft, I have a portal I can log in. If someone steals my phone, I can just instantly log in and go remote wipe, and it removes everything that's company confidential, or potentially company confidential. Will it remove my personal email accounts? No, I don't believe so. Will it remove my games that I have on my phone? No. But it's basically designed to control corporate data. Now I'm not an MDM. I mean, what do Microsoft use? Intune, right? So Intune is our platform. And again, this is the second week in a row. If you want an Intune specialist on this call, I can make that happen for you. But it's a scenario where there are a ton of look at the Intune policies. The Intune policies, or if it's a different trying to think of a different MDM platform. There's a bunch of them out there. The policies that they have can dictate how much control you have over your machine.
I can tell you from working with the platform of Zen Mobile, which was a Citrix product that really is not a very good product, but did quite a bit of work years ago with Zen Mobile, and they actually did the same thing, but they wiped the entire device. So if you opted in to have your device as part of receiving company email or anything like that, there was no option. It just wiped the entire device. There was no option to preserve any information, personal or any information on the device at all. It just wiped the whole thing.
Most MDM products have severe hooks into the OS of the device. I mean, you have to accept basically every permission under the sun. Selective wipe and full wipe are options for most MDM products, and I believe that's the case for Intune as well. The selective wipe is just going to wipe applications that are installed within that sandbox of the MDM. The full wipe is basically what it implies. It tends to be a device reset where you don't want a device having any information. And so if it's lost or somebody takes it, you can do a full and unconditional wipe of it. You're warned multiple times, but those are two different policies, and typically a device will have, most MDM solutions have both. If you, I did post a link on how to wipe only corporate data from an Intune managed app from Microsoft Docs. And I think if you review further, you'll find that there are all sorts of policies you can set up for selective wipe and profile wipe and all that stuff.
Yeah, and
Is anyone else experiencing some funky coloring on the call today, or is it just me?
Your acid's kicking into this.
Mike, you're black and white. Mike's
Yeah.
black and white. Sean, you're black and white. You're wearing blue lipstick. It's awesome.
Is my shirt blue?
That might not be a color aberration.
Yeah, I see that with Mike, where it's you're like 2/3 of you are. Yeah, as you move around, move over to your right. Yeah, that's into the color sphere. Now that's black and white.
I've
I'm not
got
seeing that at all.
I see
colors.
Shari looks like Minnie Mouse with two like big mouse ears.
Oh,
That's
that's
the-
the fireworks.
That's your fireworks, yeah.
Hey, I'll take the Disney. I like it.
Well, hey, 4 minutes left. 2 questions to close this out. Number 11, Simon says, I have a question. It's wrong, maybe. I have Teams account with my email for business and personal account. One email for business and personal. Sometimes I see I can't use email for both, but how to delete personal or business and create my other email to split accounts. So
I'm going to be honest, I don't really understand the question.
they're using Teams with my email for business and personal. So they've set it up. I imagine that it's a like with Collab Talk. They've got a Collab Talk email. They use it for both personal stuff and business, but now they want to split it. How can they split it? So they've got to create a whole nother profile and login.
And then manually move. And manually wipe.
Yeah, it just sounds like they need to set up a second, migrate whatever they want to migrate, and call it good.
Yeah, there's no way to go in and say, well, this one is for business, these activities, these teams that I'm a member of, these are personal, and then shift between them. You've got to be re-invited into either as personal or business. I would say that, if I'm a member of one business account and 10 personal ones or vice versa, that would be the direction that I would lean. All things being equal, I would probably leave it as the business account and that membership, and then create a new personal one, so less impact to the business activities.
Mm-hmm.
Unless that's your personal email and now you've got a new business account, but then you would have to be re-invited into all of those business teams and conversations as a new user.
Born again user.
I think that's what that means. Yes.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
think so.
Anything to add on that one, or we jump to the final question and close this out? Let's see. Number 12, Carmen says, are there any PowerPoint experts around? I have a problem with slideshows and narrations. I'm doing this on my HP Elite from school. I narrate each slide. Initially on all the recordings are there. When I play it as a slideshow, it will cut off a part of the narration. If you export into a video, same thing. Weird part is I'm doing things exactly as I've been doing for well over a year and has just started doing this over the last few months. Another teacher has had a similar issue on their computer over the summer. I want to say it's set to rehearse timing and not a specific length. That's the same on all slides. This is driving me nuts and I need a fix. Anyone have an answer?
I actually talked to Heather Ackman, who is a PowerPoint MVP, last night, and she said she had heard of this, but it didn't have a whole lot of answers. I did find an article that I put in the chat for a possible troubleshooting if they want to go in there, but basically the audio stops playing when you transition from one slide to another. So that transition starts happening when the slide transition occurs. And I'm wondering if they're not giving themselves enough time at the end of the recording to allow for the slide transition.
So I think what
carry
happened,
over.
there was a change that happened when they got rid of the old way of recording videos in YouTube. So it's been about a year when this change happened. And so basically what it does is the AI then does muting. So it creates automatically buffers. So I experienced the same thing because I used to go in and for older presentations that I wasn't going to give webinars anymore, but I wanted to capture. And I would just have a running dialogue over where I would do the webinar. I would walk through the presentation and save it as a recording. And because it doesn't do the transitions, because the way that I present, I will, as I'm talking and I'm closing out one discussion, I'll do a transition over to the next slide. And that's where that audio buffer in between those transitions cuts off. So the way to avoid it, if this is your primary way of recording, is say everything you want to say while the screen is live, and then pause, hit to the next slide for the transition, and then start speaking again. And then you don't have the issue. But that's what's happening is I believe it's the AI feature that was added to remove that, to close out the discussion on one slide and then open it up. And so it's basically you're doing, if you have 20 slides, you're doing 20 audio recordings. And so it has that buffer at the beginning and end. So it's not one long audio file, which is the way that it used to be captured. So that's why. So it's a feature. It's the way that it's designed now. If you'd like to see it another way, then I would go into user voice or go into tech community and provide feedback to the PowerPoint team. So another relevant link there.
Very short one from Riz.
That's an awesome link. What is that?
I was just summarizing what you were saying.
Just commit
I'd
that.
use a word other than summarize.
What is that a link
I didn't
to?
type it all in. It just sort of appeared that way.
Yeah.
It's a link to Say What You Mean to Say, John Mayer.
All right. Well, we're at the end here. It's just to close it out. Thanks everybody for participating again. 42 weeks of doing this live stream. Really appreciate everybody that's been participating. Thank you for those that have been watching. I have to show the picture with Eric with his Muppets behind him. But really appreciate everybody for dialing in. Again, we're going to be taking a couple weeks break here. We'll be back. We're going to be relaunching the office hours. So we'll have our new corporate masters, but we're moving over underneath the AvePoint brand. So they've been doing off and on office hours. I think Dux has been the primary person running that, and I'm going to be taking that over on the AvePoint brand. So we'll have the production team taking that over. So we're figuring out and coordinating the schedule. I think we're going to be changing dates, moving back to morning and afternoon. So we'll have our US, EMEA, and APAC sessions like we did previously, either on a Tuesday or Wednesday. So we'll figure all that out. We'll make an announcement and then reach out to everybody and start scheduling people's calendars.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I'll have the blog post out later today that'll have indexed to all of the topics, all the questions that we answered, all of the links provided, and be sure to go out and what doesn't change is all the recordings out on YouTube on Collab Talk, and yeah, that's it. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks to
You
everybody.
Christian.
You gotta say it, Christian. That's a wrap. You gotta say it.
Oh yeah, that's a wrap. Episode 42. Oh, unfortunately, we don't have enough time to answer all the universal questions that are out there. So sorry. Maybe next time.
So long, and thanks for all the fish.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank
Hey,
you.
guys.
Happy
My
New Year.
pleasure. Thanks, Christian.
And I guess I should kick off again, if I can open it back up here, the music to take us back out of here. There we go. The thoughtful tune before we end, but yeah.
Is it the Muppet theme for Eric?
Uh,